We're good.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call our meeting to order. Hope everyone is well and well positioned in front of their cameras. First item on our agenda is a moment of silence. If we'll just take a moment, please. Okay, thank you. Next, we have a Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know where there is a flag for us to point ourselves to. I have one on an opposite wall in my office. Hopefully, you'll have something here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
the United States of
America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. And I just realized how incredibly awkward that is on a Zoom meeting. So I'd like to do introductions. I know first off we have Ms. Haynes here, who's stepping in and filling in for Ms. Bailey from Chesterfield. So we'd like to welcome her. I am John Wright. I'm from the Goochland County School Board. And if we could go around, I don't know how best to order this. Thank you, Bob.
John Axel, Hannibal County School Board.
Mickey Ogbern, Henrico County School Board.
Valerie Ayers, Powhatan County School Board.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Catherine Haynes, as mentioned, stepping in for Ms. Bailey from Chesterfield County Public Schools, and very happy to be here this morning.
And Pritchett just introduced himself from Petersburg School Board. Okay, staff members, would you mind, Bob, sort of kicking off everybody staff member wise?
Sure. I'm Bob Lowry. I'm the director at Maggie L. Walker Governor School.
Wendy Ellis, Associate Director, Maggie Walker.
Good morning, Max Smith, Assistant Director, Maggie Walker.
Good morning, David Bortz, Chief Technology Officer, Maggie Walker.
Good morning, Wendy DeGroat, Faculty Liaison to the Board and Librarian at Maggie Walker.
Jeremy Raley, Superintendent, Goochland County.
Beth Teigen, Henrico County Public Schools Chief of Staff. I'm sitting in for Dr. Cashwell.
Jennifer Gray.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Melody Hackney, Superintendent, Hopewell City.
Jennifer Gray, Hanover County Assistant Superintendent, subbing in for Dr. Gill.
Delphine Joppy, Charles City County Public Schools Superintendent.
Ryan Nichols, New Kent Superintendent.
Okay, great. And
George Fold, Gifted Education Coordinator in Chesterfield County Public Schools, in for Dr. Darty today.
Good morning, Lynn Plevich, Richmond Public Schools Gifted Coordinator, designee Jason Cameras.
Let's see, and I think we've got everybody who I would have expected to introduce themselves. We've got a couple of, looks like visitors here as well. Would you mind introducing yourselves? Two students, I see. Okay, thank you, Mr. Great. Great. I'm sorry?
I'm Ananya Shah. I'm a senior at Maggie Walker High School.
Great, thank you.
Troy Milani, I'm also a senior at Maggie Walker.
And I'm Centil Mayapin, also a senior at Maggie Walker.
Oh, so 3 students, great. Well, thank you one and all. We appreciate your time at the board meeting. First up for us, we need to approve our agenda for the day.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
We still need one more board member for a quorum.
Oh, goodness.
Paul is not on yet, and Miss White, that I was on the phone with her, she's having a hard time connecting too.
So I would assume that means we can't even approve our agenda at this point.
Well, could she attend, could she?
Ms. Hall has just
call in?
arrived on the call, I believe.
Thank you. All right, then. So our first item of business is approval of our agenda. Do I have a motion to approve, or is there any suggested amendments to the agenda as presented?
Mr. Wright, I will move that we approve the agenda as presented. Mickey Ogbern.
Yep, thank you.
Valerie Ayers will second.
Great, thank you. So board members, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any in opposition? Great, then we know what we're doing for the day. Next up, we have.
Right.
Yes,
Ms. White is here too.
fantastic. Welcome, Ms. White.
Thank you.
Good. Let's see, next up, we have approval of our minutes from our last meeting. This has been in your packets, board members, and so I assume you've had an opportunity to review it. We have a motion to approve.
Valerie
So
Ayers,
moved.
motion to approve.
And did I hear Ms. Hall there as well? Can we take that as a second, Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Great, thank you. All right, so board members, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Great, thank you. So we've got an agenda, we've got our minutes down, and that brings us to recognitions.
All
Dr.
right, if
Rowley.
you give me just a moment to pull up the new screen here. The first recognition we have is just an acknowledgement of our new board, and this is a presentation that will be on our website, and you can see that each member of the board has a picture as well as a short biography of each member. Mr. Axel, you look great. There you go. So we just wanted to acknowledge that we've added this to our website now. Adds a little bit more depth to what we normally have in terms of board members. So I'm sure that Ms. Marshall put this together. It is beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. The next item, I need to stop share. 1 second here. I'm having to do this in kind of a strange fashion here. The next item is a school board appreciation, which is this month. And if you give me just 1 second, I can share this out. There we go. And again, February is School Board Appreciation Month. Normally, we would present you with a big, huge banner that's signed by all the students here at school, but that's not quite possible right now. So we do have a recognition here. There's our famous board picture that we took last month up top there. And then you also have a little bit of a write-up on all the work that the board has done. And we certainly appreciate everything that you do for us and with us. And there's last year's, they still love you. We have last year's card up there since we weren't able to get this year's. So we do recognize School Board Appreciation Month, and we thank you for all that you do for us here at Maggie Walker. And I'm now going to move to the next item. Again, I'm having to flip around. The next item that we have on the agenda is a recognition of Ms. Ogbern's service to the board as chair.
Thank you. I have my gavel right here. I don't know if you can see
It
it.
arrived.
In case John gets out of order, I can get you going.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, may I have a moment, just a slight moment? I was just surprised that Ms. Ogbern, I mean, it's not that difficult to run 2 boards at one time. I mean, Henrico is such a small division.
Oh, yeah.
It's such, such a, small group. Thank you, Ms. Ogbern.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well done.
Yeah. There's nothing going on at all. Yeah, no.
Peace and quiet. Hey, all of us, all divisions, peace and quiet, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
I would just add, as I'm pulling up the next slide here, that Ms. Ogbern and I arrived at Tucker High School at about the same time 9 years ago. Was when she was first elected, and the first time I got moved to a big comprehensive school. And it has been a pleasure to be able to work in 2 different districts with her. And she is a professional and a caring, just good human being. So I can consider it a privilege to still be able to maintain that relationship.
Me too. Thank you. That's a great way to start my day. I appreciate it.
There you go. Well, here's another good way to keep your day going. Maggie Walker was recognized by Newsweek magazine as the 5th best public high school in America. I'm not 100% sure what their metrics are, to be honest, but I think they look at graduation rates, SAT scores, AP scores, access to advanced rigorous programming and such. And for years, Newsweek dropped us off the list because of our program status, but for reasons known but to Newsweek, they have decided to bring us back on board with that. So, I don't really look for national recognition as much as just making sure that we're doing the right thing for our kids, but it is certainly something nice to see. And I know that a lot of our parents and students and board members and faculty members take a great deal of pride in this. So it is good news, and we're happy to be recognized. So I just wanted to share that.
If you don't mind, I'm going to make one quick comment. I find it very interesting that in the small print, it says 2 of the top 5, but we don't name the other one. Well done.
Virginia.
Well done. Named that other school.
Well, and to be honest, it's I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit later in the agenda, but the other school is very, very different from us, and I don't like it when they lump the 2 of us together as being sort of the same thing, because we're really not, and it makes things difficult sometimes. So let me move to the next piece here. The next piece on the agenda is public comment.
Well, board members, I know that Ms. Marshall forwarded a comment to each of you that was made by someone, and I assume because they could not make it to this meeting or whatever the case may be. I hope that you've all had an opportunity to review that. Ms. Marshall, am I correct? That was the only public comment that we had? Great.
Yes.
And I believe that was just advocating for a 5-day return to school. So I'm sure we've all had an opportunity to review that. Thank you, Dr. Lowry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and certainly acknowledge that passion that parent had. The whole reopening process has been a very emotional experience for everybody, and certainly not just at Maggie Walker, but at all schools as well. And we are all, I think it's fair to say, we are all working towards being able to open every day with everybody. That is absolutely where we are trying to get, and I certainly respect that parent's passion about wanting to get there, and we will get there. We will get there as soon as we can. And we also have parents who are equally as passionate about remaining at home. So it's been a challenge, but we'll talk about this in a little bit on the agenda, but we are looking forward to being able to offer some choice for some folks. Next item on the agenda is the director's update. And I'm just going to kind of roll through this real quick. There's a list here of our seminars that we are going to be able to offer next year. And we are very excited that some of them are repeats that are just very, very popular. And we also have a couple new ones. I'm very excited about the music production and recording seminar. I think it's wonderful that kids are going to have that opportunity. Of course, our baseball seminar is doing strong, and London's coming back again next year. Mr. Rocky on the bottom here is one of our new teachers, and he has a seminar on wilderness and the American mind, and has students that are interested in that. These numbers of kids that are in these things are the ones who signed up for it as of right now. Those numbers could change, conceivably going up. And the reason for that is that all of our seniors are either taking a seminar class or they're engaged in a mentorship. And because of COVID, we have found that the mentorships are challenging. A lot of companies and businesses and organizations, they're working remotely. They're not interested in bringing people into their environment that they don't have to have in their environment. And some of the organizations that we've worked with in the past on mentorships have said, you know, we're going to have to take a year off. You know, once COVID is done, we'll see what we can do. So we have kids that are working towards mentorships, and hopefully they'll be able to get them. But in the event that they're unable to be placed or that their placement doesn't work out because of COVID, then they'll probably hop into these classes as well. So those are kind of your baseline numbers, but they're likely to go up. This is kind of old news because we were postponed last week, but our college kickoff took place last week and is actually taking place today as well. It's an annual event that we do with our juniors and sophomores, where we bring in panels from the different colleges to be able to talk to our kids about how to apply for college, financial aid. This year we've had panelists from Old Dominion, from Howard University, from Northeastern University, University of Richmond, University of Chicago, and William and Mary couldn't make it to the makeup day today, but University of Virginia will be there on today's panel. And it's great because the kids get to hear directly from the admissions officers about what they're looking for, how to apply for financial aid, how to do a college search. And it's a great opportunity. Doing them online, we're also able to have, you know, in a webinar format, there's parents that are able to be in there. So it's a very popular, well-attended event for us. And that went on last week and is finishing up this week. Fall sports are underway. Kind of weird to say that in February, but the winter sports are wrapping up now. The track team won the region for both girls and boys, and they're off to states. We have swimmers at states. We had some wrestlers at states as well. And now the fall sports are underway with volleyball, field hockey, and golf, as well as cross country. So the weather was nice. I think they were out there golfing yesterday. And the weather is good today, but the fall sports are underway. We're following all of the VHSL guidelines in terms of safety and mitigation. And we managed to get through the winter sports season with only a couple of hiccups, one with our wrestling team and our swim team, where we had to sort of shut the program down for just a little bit while we quarantined due to some exposures. But generally speaking, it went fairly well with a very compressed season. So fall sports are underway now. And then in a month or two, we'll be into the spring sports. So we are glad to be able to offer our kids those opportunities to compete. Just a real quick update. I mentioned this earlier. New student applications and essays are completed. The local district's gifted coordinators are now compiling their lists, and the letters for acceptance to Maggie Walker will go out next Friday on March 5th. Along with that, normally we would do a Future Dragon Day where we invite students on campus to shadow students here for a day. We're not able to do that because of just the restrictions we have. However, we are doing a virtual Future Dragon Day. In the afternoon, it's going to start where all of the kids come into a webinar session for about 20 minutes tops. They'll listen to administration, just kind of welcome them. And then we're putting them all in breakout rooms that are going to be arranged by their districts. I'm sure that someone's very concerned about my extended warranty of my car, but we're going to put them in breakout rooms by district, and they'll be able to talk to kids just like they normally would, have a Q&A session about what it's like to be here at Maggie Walker and that type of format. So we're still able to do the Future Dragon Day virtually, even though last year, because of when COVID hit, we didn't get a chance to do anything. So we're pretty excited about that, to be able to pull that off. And that's happening. It's going to be on the afternoon of St. Patrick's Day from about 3:30 to 5 and get that information out to the kids. Along those same lines, we're also arranging, since our freshmen really haven't been on campus yet this year, on Friday, March 12th, which is the Friday before we plan on bringing kids back on campus, we have set up tours in small groups of kids for all of our entire freshman class. For half-hour tours starting at about 8:30 in the morning, running until about 3:30, where they're going to get a chance to come on campus, walk their schedule, see where the cafeteria is, get used to the one-way hallways that we've established now, and give them a chance to kind of orient themselves, since really they haven't been on campus except to pick up their books back in late August. So we're going to be able to take care of them as well. And then finally, my last little piece of my report, we have 2 presidential scholar candidates from the class of 2021, and they are both listed there. That's quite an accomplishment. It's quite an honor, and oftentimes we'll have one, but to have 2 is something special. So we do have 2 candidates for presidential scholar for the class of 2021, and that concludes my verbal report. One second here, I can get us back on our agenda. There we go. The next item on my report, on my section, is just coming events, and I've already sort of described them to you. So don't really have anything additional to add other than our next board meeting is scheduled for March 18th. And that's really the only main coming event that I didn't already mention. The next item on the agenda, we've got officers from the Model UN Gizman 23, the 23rd time we've done this. Mr. Smith is their sponsor. And Mr. Smith, I don't know, do they have a presentation or are they going to speak?
We do have a few minutes for them to speak.
I mean, do you have a PowerPoint or anything you need me to manage?
No PowerPoint this morning.
Okay, then I will turn the agenda over to you, sir.
Good morning, members of the board. Thank you so much for having us yet again in order to speak to you about Governor's School Model UN. I've now been the sponsor for the club for 13 years, and I'm very proud of this group about to speak to you. Last year, when COVID closed schools on March 13th, we were poised and ready for our Governor's School Model UN conference to occur on March 20th. We had already done the t-shirts, the pizzas ordered, the gavels, organized the committees. Everything was ready to go. And at first, we were very, very disappointed in order to not have that conference last year. But the students this year have worked tirelessly in order to convert our conference to a virtual format that we are launching this year. They have worked countless hours in order to be able to bring this Governor's School tradition back. And we hope that it will be just as big of a success in the virtual environment next month as it has been for the 22 previous years that we've had the conference. I have the pleasure of introducing my Secretary General, Senthil Mayappan.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Good morning, everyone. My name is Senthil Mayappan, and I'm a senior at Maggie L. Walker Governor's School. And like Mr. Smith said, I'm also the Secretary General leading the 23rd Governor's School Model United Nations, or GISMN, Maggie Walker's very own Model UN conference. Malala Yousafzai, who struggled for Pakistani women's education, once said, "I truly believe the only way we can create global peace is through not only educating our minds, but our hearts and our souls." GISMN and Model UN itself seeks to do exactly that. Educate the youth to prepare them to be the global leaders that spearhead international peace years from now. GISMN has cultivated future diplomats and informed global citizens for over 2 decades. And this year, even under the extraordinary circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic, we've pledged to continue this commitment we began 23 years ago. From a Lyndon B. Johnson cabinet to the International Court of Justice, and from Silicon Valley tech giants to the Gulf Cooperation Council, my team and I have assembled an impressive array of committees for attending delegates that will introduce them to a complex yet elegant world of diplomacy. The conference is scheduled from Friday, March 26th to Saturday, March 27th, and will occur entirely virtually, giving participants 2 days to step into the shoes of actual people or countries and discuss real-life conflicts. I'd now like to introduce our Director of Charitable Giving, Shreya Malani, to give a few words about the philanthropic face of our conference.
Hi, everybody. My name is Shreya Malani, and I am the Director of Charitable Giving of GISMN this year. Every year, our conference has been lucky enough to partner with a charity, and we are proud to say that we support these charities through donations from both our delegates and other fundraising partners. This year is no different. GISMN often gives preference to organizations which focus on national affairs and issues such as education or world poverty. However, this year we decided to take a different route from the traditional type of charity and focus on more of a local organization. Considering the fact that mental health has been such a common issue among students adults alike this year due to the isolation and strict conditions most of us have found ourselves constricted to for the past 11 months, we decided to partner with a charity that supports struggling children who have lost loved ones and may provide support for those struggling with mental health issues. Comfort Zone Camp is a nonprofit organization that transforms the lives of children who have experienced the death of loved ones. The program is free of charge and includes trust-building exercises and age-based support groups and break the emotional isolation grief often brings. Comfort Zone's programs are offered to children aged 7 to 17 and their families, plus young adult programs for 18 to 25-year-olds. Gisman is so excited to support Comfort Zone this year. We have already started fundraising efforts early and just raised $200 recently at a Chipotle fundraiser where our entire club participated to help raise money. Although the conference is online this year, we plan to work just as hard to donate as much as we can to Comfort Zone through the revenue we receive from registration costs, online merchandise sales, and incentives during our committees. We are truly so excited to uphold this longstanding tradition of Gisman. I'd like to pass it on to our lovely Gisman Director General, Ananya Shah.
Hi, I'm Ananya Shah, and I am this year's Director General. So traditionally, our conference partners every year with a speaker to give a 30-minute speech and answer delegates' questions. The topic is always an international or political issue relevant to Model UN. This year, we are still working on securing a speaker. As of now, we have reached out to Representative Spanberger and Senator Warner of Virginia. If they do not respond, we will be reaching out to State Senator Ghazala Hashmi or Delegate Van Valkenburg. By offering a speaker, we hope to expand our delegates' horizons further than simply mock debate, as they will also be exposed to real-life political dilemmas that require bipartisanship and compromise to solve. This year has been a challenge for everyone, but we have attempted to recreate our conference as perfectly as possible through Zoom. This has included rigorous training for our chairs, who have adapted incredibly well to the virtual format. We are confident that our committees will run smoothly and are excited to still be offering crisis and specialized committees. Finally, we are still trying to fill our remaining delegate seats as we have about 200 students currently registered. Our goal is around 500 delegates, and we are reaching out to as many in-state, middle, and high schools as possible, especially those in our surrounding counties. We would greatly appreciate if you could help spread the word about Gisman in your respective districts. Thank you so much for your time today and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Cynthia, Ananya, Shreya. I am very proud of you and your entire team. Members of the board, we appreciate your time, and if you could promote the conference to those middle and high schools in your districts, we'd appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I ask a personal question?
I'm a little worried, but yes.
Ms. Shaw, are you kin to Dr. Shaw by any chance?
I have two parents named Dr. Shaw.
I'm sorry, say again?
I have two parents named Dr. Shaw, which Dr.
I hope I say his name. I will say it wrong. Forgive me for saying it wrong. Mubashir? Did I say that right?
No, I don't think it's probably a different Dr. Shaw.
Yeah, because he had the displeasure of working with me. No, that's why I was wondering. He's one of my doctors. Forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right, then, Dr. Lowry.
There we go. The next item on our agenda is a presentation from Ms. Lynn Reed on the polar seminar that we've been running. Ms. Reed, are you on the call? I can't see everybody.
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. I'm going to switch my screen share over here in just a second to your presentation, and then you can certainly walk us through it and just tell me when to move it along.
All right, thank you. I'll just make sure that.
There we go.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And thanks to the administration and the board for your support of these important seminars that our seniors get to participate in. So I have the privilege of working with a seminar devoted to a multi-exploration of the polar regions. And some of you know that I'm a mathematics teacher. So you might be wondering, well, how the heck did she end up being in a polar seminar? That is me right there at the little picture there. And I have a little Maggie Walker dragon sitting on the geographic South Pole. Go ahead and move along there. So how did I get there? Again, some of you have been members of the school board for some time, and you might remember that in 2012 through 2014, I was the Albert Einstein Distinguished Educator Fellow assigned to the National Science Foundation Division of Polar Programs. And through my work with that office, I was able to travel to Antarctica twice and to spent 3 different summers in Greenland and got to participate in quite a lot of interesting travel, but also learning a lot about the polar regions and learning how to educate others about the polar regions. All right, you can go on. Oh, that was me holding a fledgling penguin, by the way. All right, so there are many objectives and goals that are associated with this polar seminar, but I want to highlight in this brief presentation 2 of them. That is, I want to introduce to our students the wide variety of science that is being conducted in the polar regions, and much of that science has to do with measuring climate change and using that to build better climate models. I also wanted them to get a better appreciation of the history of polar exploration and not only the triumphs, but also the hardships that went along with this. All right, if we go ahead to the next slide. So before I move on to the science, I'll make just a couple of comments about the history. So we read 2 different books so far this year. The first one, In the Kingdom of Ice, explores the USS Jeannette. And this was in the 1870s as she became trapped in drift ice. Now, that particular story became important for Fridtjof Nansen and the Fram, which was the first drift expedition, and then has a connection to a modern expedition that just finished in October called Mosaic. And I'm going to talk back or swing back around to that in just a moment. The other book that we've just finished recently is Endurance. And if you've never read this amazing story about Ernest Shackleton and it's a survival story when his ship got trapped in Antarctic ice in the Weddell Sea area. Just amazing to understand what's going on there. And the picture that is listed there is from Shackleton, one of his earlier expeditions. And I again will mention something about those historic huts in just a moment. You'll go ahead, please. So to introduce students to the wide variety of science, I have invited many different people, support staff, as well as researchers to join us virtually. This is then actually the beauty of Zoom, is that we have had people from all over the nation and in fact, international guests as well. So our very first one to kick off our talk was Robbins, and he's an amazing guy. He's been a diver in the Antarctic program for close to 40 years. Has amazing stories working with productions like for the BBC, but also he works to help support the infrastructure. And I'll let you just go ahead quickly as we look through here. We've had people talking about ice cores, penguin researchers. We had, we'll pause right here for a moment. I was thrilled that we were able to get Dr. Jem Madsen. He works out of the University of Wisconsin on this very large collaboration called the IceCube Neutrino Observatory. This neutrino observatory is important for astrophysics research, and it's located at the South Pole. Well, while we were talking with him in October, him from Wisconsin, all of us in Virginia, he was joined by, or we were joined by over Zoom with 2 of the postdocs who were at the South Pole, and we're talking about their work there. So I thought that was really a great experience. We go on there. Also in October, we had scientists who work in a soil scientist, Dr. Byron Adams, as well as a scientist who works with seaweed. Basically, that's what macroalgae is, who works there in outside the Antarctic Peninsula. at Palmer Station. We'll go on. Now, I mentioned Mosaic a minute ago and how it was connected back in history to the USS Jeanette. Dr. Matthew Shoup had been back from the Mosaic expedition for only 1 month when he met with us. The Mosaic stands for the Multidisciplinary Drifting Arc. Now I've forgotten what the S is. Arctic for climate change. Basically, they're looking at taking all sorts of measurements for sea ice and clouds and wind patterns and temperatures. And it was a full year expedition, and he was able to tell our students a lot about it. If we will continue on. I've also been able to leverage some of the experiences and work with the people or people that I worked with at NSF to come talk to our students. And I especially want to mention Dr. Nature McGinn's presentation. She is the environmental program manager, but she attends the Antarctic Treaty meetings that happen every year. And our students have such a great grasp of international studies and sort of the politics, and they understand how difficult international policies can be. And to talk about the Antarctic Treaty and how important that was to set aside this continent for peaceful scientific purposes only. And the students were so engaged with this that they invited her back, and she was very gracious to come back a second day to just answer more questions about the Antarctic Treaty and the environmental protections. We can go on. We've had Dr. Jennifer Burns talk about Weddell seals and her work with these large marine mammals. And then just recently, and you may have gotten the information on this, we were able to have Christina Cook. She is, yes, a very important NASA astronaut, spending 328 days on the International Space Station. But before she was with NASA, she was a research associate for the U.S. Antarctic program and spent time at South Pole as well as at Palmer Station. And so she did an excellent presentation on working in cold and harsh and remote environments with the space and with Antarctica. Now, it says upcoming, and that's because I thought we were going to do this talk last week, but we've had this week two additional people talk. David Noon joined us from New Zealand, and he is an atmospheric scientist, a climate physicist, and did an excellent talk about how we can learn a lot about distant ancient climate by looking at the small bubbles of air that are trapped in these ancient ice cores. And then just yesterday, closer to home, Steve Emsley, who's at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, did a great talk about how he's understanding more about climate change by looking at old penguin rookeries, specifically the Adelie penguins. And he, in fact, even had, he joined us from his office, and he had, in his hands, showing the students a mummified penguin that was about 2,000 years old. Upcoming now, next week, we have Lizzie Meek, again, as a New Zealander. She works with the Antarctic Heritage Trust, and this is the organization that is charged with preserving, conserving all of the artifacts left by people like Ernest Shackleton and his his party, Robert Falcon Scott, Sir Edmund Hillary, and I have been in a couple of those huts. They do amazing work. I mean, you look around, you see the sealskin sleeping bag, you see the foodstuffs, you see the candles, the stove, and it is absolutely incredible. So she's going to be talking about what it takes to conserve these items. We also have a volcanologist, and in April we have a young woman that I met in Greenland. She's a PhD now, and she is going to be talking about traditional animal-based diets, things like what the Inuit would eat historically, and how this is very important to understand the benefits of an animal-based diet. So we have possibly some more that are coming as well. So as if you are interested in participating, especially in our remaining ones, if you will let Miss Marshall know, or you can email me. I want to do a shout out to Miss Barber. She has attended 3 of our sessions, and we're always glad to have her join us. And we also record every one of them so that students and teachers who are unable to meet with us during the time of the live presentation will be able to hear these speakers and hear the questions that we store them on Schoology. So I think that that's all I really wanted to shout out here. But if you have questions, I would love to be able to answer them. And I'll just again note that those are Adelie penguins looking at our little friend, the dragon. So.
I'll just say, Mr. Chair, real quick, I can't imagine any other high school program that's ever had the ability to bring in so many top level experts. It's, you know, if you could get 1 or 2 of them over the course of an entire, you know, curriculum, that would be considered a pretty big coup. And it's almost like, and today's speaker is, it's just, to me, it's just astounding. And I have tremendous respect for Ms. Reed to be able to, you know, not only is she teaching high level math classes, but to be able to manage a class like this that she clearly has a passion for, and to bring in such incredible speakers for our kids to be able to interact with. It's just, that's like college level PhD stuff right there. And we're doing it in a public high school in Richmond, which is pretty amazing to me.
Agreed. It was a very impressive presentation. Thank you, Ms. Reed. And I'm very intrigued by everything. I got excited when I heard you say that you've got some of these recorded. So I may reach out to Ms. Marshall and pull a few things out for myself. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Of course. Thank you.
Board members, are there any questions or comments for Mrs. Reed?
Just to thank her for the presentation. It was just fascinating and very exciting.
Well, if any of you have that interest and you want to join, next week will be very interesting. And that one is, again, because of New Zealand. It'll be at an afternoon time, about 3:15 on Wednesday.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chair, the next 2 items on the agenda are unfinished business. One is a standing item on strategic plan implementation updates. And I'm going to share my screen real quick, and if I can get this to work here. There we go. I apologize that little task bar at the top gets in the way sometimes of being able to pick out the things that you want to share. There we go. Just an update here. You know, the red means we are still waiting to get underway on it. A lot of that is due to our inability to get out into the environment or to have people here, but that will start changing shortly. The blue means that we are underway on it. And so we have been working on examining and eliminating structural barriers to prevent students from availing themselves of all the opportunities at MLWGS. We've been able to start soliciting student feedback on our climate here. We certainly have filed all of our reports with the state that are required. We are also starting to work with Virginia Center for Inclusive Communities in terms of sort of having an outside eyeballs coming in and taking a look at our programs and seeing how we can make them more inclusive. Dr. Ellis and I had a rather lengthy and productive meeting with VCU about expanding dual enrollment classes and offerings. We did that a couple weeks ago, and that was a very positive experience. I think there may be some more opportunities there as we continue to develop our partnership with VCU. And certainly you've seen the menu of teacher-created courses that we had with the seminar ones earlier there, as well as Ms. Reed's Polar Palooza. And again, as part of our budget, and we'll talk about this later, incentivizing the current online payment system as well. So we're making progress on the strategic plan. Our committee meets usually monthly. We're getting ready to schedule our next one shortly to be able to keep ourselves on track. once we have kids back on campus, it's going to explode in terms of how much we can accomplish once we're able to actually have people at the table. So that's a very positive thing. Are there any questions about the strategic plan, just in terms of implementing it?
No, I'm sure you're looking forward to the opportunity to gather together and get started on some of those initiatives.
Yeah, that's been the biggest challenge. It certainly has, but I think that there's definitely a lot of momentum. A lot is happening online. The school advisory committee has been working on issues of equity. They put on a fabulous Black History Assembly yesterday that we were able to do virtually. So I think that we're definitely marching in the right direction. It'll just be a little bit easier when we can actually have people on campus. The only other item I had for unfinished business was just something that we had talked about last month, and that was the legislation that was working its way through the General Assembly, HB 2305, which was going to require the Department of Education to provide guidance on ways to improve diversity and access of the governor's school. Certainly, it's been in the newspapers quite a bit lately. That legislation passed the House, went to the Senate, was referred to the Senate Committee on Education, and it failed to get out of committee. So there is no legislation right now working its way through the General Assembly that specifically addresses governor schools. Some people are kind of wonder what happened, and I think largely, and this is sort of, I made that sort of connection when Ms. Ogbern was talking about the other governor's school up in Northern Virginia, that their community lobbied very, very aggressively against the bill. And I think that's why it stopped where it did in committee. Having said that, we've known for some time that we can't rely on the General Assembly or the state government to do the things that we need to do to improve our situation here. We've owned that from the beginning. Our strategic plan was voted on and approved long before that bill ever made it to anywhere. And we are doing the things that we want to do and we know we can do to be able to open the doors wider for our students. So I look at the bill personally as, I don't know it was going to do a whole lot if it was passed, but we're already on the right path of improving our programs and making them more accessible, while at the same time maintaining the standards that have made us identify as the 5th best school in the country in terms of public education. So I just wanted to give an update that particular bill is no more, at least for this assembly. Could come back in the future, but hopefully by the time it makes its way back, we'll have moved so far down the path that we wouldn't need it anyway.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I will comment on
Please do.
Dr. Lowry's announcement. I just wanted to, not tooting the horn of Henrico, but one of the things that I was really gratified to see is that we, as we talked about at a previous meeting, putting this on the radar of our legislative folks. And if you don't know Bev Lammy is the legislative liaison, so to speak, for Henrico County and the school system for all things General Assembly and legislation, et cetera. And she's basically our lobbyist. And so as we talked about that I would do, I put this on Bev's radar. She, just like some of the others of us, got calls from the VSBA. She talked to VSBA folks and kind of, made sure they were all on the same wavelength. And Bev went to great lengths to keep me apprised as it went through the General Assembly, but also she went and testified. She really did stay plugged into this issue because it became really clear very quickly that this was something that was going to affect a lot of school districts. So I just want to give her a shout out and for her hard work, and I have thanked her. But it was a real big effort from her to try and organize. And she called me one morning and said they're about to testify on this bill. And I didn't get the message until after the testimony was over. But it was amazing to watch this process and see how limiting the leadership was in trying to limit the amount of testimony that did happen. But ultimately, when the testimony happened on the Senate side, it was amazing the people who came out on behalf of Maggie Walker and the other governor's schools to hear their concerns, because it was parents, it was superintendents, people really did rally around this. So I think we had people in our corner we didn't even know we had. But they did also take the opportunity to advocate for funding changes in the funding formula. So that, I think, may have, I don't know, it may have been heard by people it hadn't been heard before. So that was also a good result. That's it.
Yes, I'm glad that we at least have an opportunity to chart our own course.
Right.
Still here. And so thank you very much for your efforts. I know we were all quite involved with this along the way. So thanks again. Let's see, Dr. Lowry, I think that brings us to our consent agenda.
Yes, sir, it does.
Knowing that we've got some board members who may need to leave in the next few minutes, I'm going to suggest and hopefully get a motion from other board members to take the consent agenda as a slate. We've all had an opportunity to review the personnel, the budget related items, and the CARES Act transactions and the donations, just in the interest of making sure that we've got a quorum to vote on the action items.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we take the consent items as a block.
Can I get a second?
Valerie Ayers will second.
Great, thank you. So we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Great, thank you. So then that brings us to our action items, Dr. Lowry.
Yeah, and just thank you on the consent items. You have approved our school nurse, and we've been working on that for quite some time. So just want to share that we're really excited about that. Not only is she a nurse, she is a nurse practitioner. So we were able to find ourselves a very skilled person, which is exciting. There are some quick items here for review on the for second vote. I'm going to pull them up real quick here. Just give me one moment. Here we go. These are items that you had first reads on at the last meeting. There we go. The first item is school board governance, and that is allowing Dinwiddie County membership into the Maggie L. Walker community. And the second item is a human resources item, and that is dealing with the regulations involving health and dental care benefits, and it's allowing us to offer those benefits at a prorated rate for our 0.8 employees, but to not offer them for 0.2, 0.4, 0.5, and 0.6. And this is in order to be in compliance with the Affordable Care Act and the affordable side of it. We would grandfather every existing employee to continue to support them with their health insurance and such as it is. So it will not harm anybody here that is currently receiving benefits as a part-time employee.
Great. So board members, this is an action item. Do we have any motions?
Mr. Chairman, John Axel, move for approval.
Thank you. Can we get a second?
I second Harwood. I
Great.
second Harwood Hall.
Thank you very much. Board members, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any in opposition? Great. That will pass. Back to you,
Next
Dr.
item. The next item is just the approval of a new course for the 21-22 school year. We talked about this. It's a topics in photography course. It's been vetted by the planning committee who supports it, and it's allowing us to be able to offer photography to sophomores since the VCU photography class is no longer available to students that are not juniors or seniors.
Okay. Great. So board members, any questions for Dr. Lowry? And if not, I'll accept a motion.
Motion by Valerie Ayers to accept.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Can I get a second?
Second, Mickey Ogbern.
Great, thank you, Ms. Ogbern. So we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you, Mr. Pritchett. I love the thumb.
Mr. Chair, the last item for approval is our recommendation to move back towards in-person learning with the reduced model starting on March 15th. Again, this would be 50% of our students being able to attend school Mondays and Tuesdays, the other 50% on Wednesdays and Thursdays. All of the transportation directors from all 12 counties have supported this and in terms of being able to help us out with transportation. So we are able to provide transportation for all of our students. The intention is that we will come back and continue to evaluate developments at the board meetings. And the ultimate goal is to get everybody back on campus every day. But we are able to start moving forward with bringing students back. By March 15th, all but 2 of our staff members will have received both vaccinations. And well, actually, I'm gonna take that back. They'll have all received the vaccination who wanted it, and there were only 3 or 4 that didn't. And by the 15th, only 2 of them won't have had the 14 days after the second vaccination, and we can work with them. So we will be able to provide on-site education starting on the 15th, and we'll continue to evaluate it. I did share with the superintendents earlier that I track this data every single day from all 12 of the districts, as well as the surrounding health regions. I look at the infection rates as well as transmission rates and numbers. And although in some areas there's still a couple little pockets where it's up a little bit, it has consistently been trending downward and into a range where we feel that it is, we can meet the CDC guidelines with the 6-foot separation and mitigation things that we've put in place to be able to get kids back on campus. And I know that many of our parents, although they certainly would love to see them back full time, are excited about being able to get their students back on campus, and we sort of start making that process happen. So we're asking for the board's support to be able to start bringing students back to campus.
Thank you, Dr. Lowry. And I want to be clear because we did have the public comment earlier about trying to get back to 5 days of instruction. The reason that we've chosen the course that you just outlined is because of those CDC requirements for 6-foot social distancing. So we ran into some capacity issues. It sort of forces us to handle this with 2 core cohorts for right now. So board members, are there any questions or comments in regards to this? Just wanted to give everybody an opportunity for this because of course it's such an important subject. So do we have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Axel. We have a second.
Mickey Ogbern, second.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Ogborn. So we've got a motion and a second. Board members, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 And again, Mr. Pritchett's thumb, thank you. Any in opposition? It's very entertaining to me, so sorry to bring you into my pedestrian sense of humor. But great. So thank you very much for getting through the action items with us. Dr. Lowry, that brings us to the items for board review and discussion. I don't believe we have any. Is that true?
No, we do not, sir.
Okay.
There we go. Back that up a little bit. Just information items for you there. And you can certainly click at these at your own convenience, but we put together a very comprehensive FAQ guide for returning students to campus. It kind of answers every question we had. I wrote the original guide and then sent it to the PPSA board and said, okay, as a parent, what have I missed? And they provided some wonderful feedback and we were able to expand it out. So I think we've answered kind of where everything is. The finance committee's meeting minutes are included there. The We the People team won the state of Virginia this year by a very large margin. So they are headed to nationals. The math model team did very well with their competition that they usually do in Arizona. There's a list of Scholastic Writing Awards and Scholastic Art Award winners. We had a lot of them this year. Our yearbook won first place and received awards of excellence, the 2020 yearbook, which is interesting when you think about how that was all sort of put together. And our Fine Arts Department Chairman, Mr. Jeff Hall, was recognized by one of the professional organizations as an Outstanding Regional Educator Award winner. So we were very happy to see that some things are still moving forward, even though we are in sort of a virtual world right now. The next item on the agenda is the Superintendent Steering Committee's report, and that would be Dr. Raley.
Thank you, board members. We had nine school divisions represented at our meeting this morning at 8:15. We had a few topics on the agenda. The first was a discussion of the return to school plan, where Dr. Lowry shared what you have previously approved. We did provide some best practices that we have all learned through the process dating back to August for things that have happened in our own individual school divisions. So that was a very healthy conversation. We also discussed House Bill 2305, and Dr. Lowry did affirm the school's commitment to providing a welcoming and safe environment for students with a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then we closed with a conversation about the FY22 budget. Dr. Lowry provided some insight regarding his thoughts on what you will hear about later on this morning. We also asked some questions regarding hypothetical situations that may come out of the General Assembly and how he may approach those. So, very positive conversation this morning.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Lowry. Okay, so, thank you, Dr. Raley. Sorry, Dr. Lowry. I think that brings us to, I don't think we have a need for a closed meeting. So that would just bring us to any announcements that we haven't covered. Is there any other announcements anyone would like to make?
The only thing I would just remind folks of is that after this meeting, we do have a budget workshop. It will not be a very long meeting at all. I've got a quick PowerPoint I can show you. It just gives you the basics on our budget. And then we'll do the formal presentation of the budget in the March board meeting. But you'll have the opportunity to take a look at it. And over the next 30 days, if there are adjustments or things you want me to look at, you can certainly do that. So after this meeting, if we could stick around for those of us that are on the board for just a few minutes so that we can present that to you.
Thank you, Dr. Lowry. That's great. And certainly looking forward to that. Board members, any other announcements out there? Not seeing any, then I think that brings us to my very favorite item on the agenda. Adjournments. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman.
Do we adjourn?
Oh, I'll second that. I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, everybody's in a rush for this one. So all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Pritchett won. He had the first vote. Look at that. Thanks, everybody. Please do stick around if you can, board members, for our budget work session. And to the rest of you, thank you so much for your time and participation. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon.